Got your Bibles here with you this morning. Let's turn over to the book of Ruth. Book of Ruth. Book of Ruth in the Old Testament. The book of Deuteronomy, Joshua, Judges, and the book of Ruth. Book of Ruth, I want us to look at chapter 1. Chapter 1, and we'll begin in verse 1. Go down to verse 22. Ruth chapter 1, verse 1 down through 22. Now it came to pass in the days when the judges ruled, that there was a famine in the land. And a certain man of Bethlehem, Judah, went to sojourn in the country of Moab, he and his wife and his 2 sons. The name of the man was Elimelech, the name of his wife was Naomi, the name of his 2 sons, Mahlon and Chilion, Ephrathites of Bethlehem, Judah. And they came into the country of Moab and continued there. And Elimelech's, Naomi's husband, died, and she was left and her 2 sons. They took them wives of the women of Moab. The name of the one was Orpah, and the name of the other was Ruth. And they dwelled there about 10 years. Mahlon and Chilion died, also both of them. And the woman was left of her 2 sons and her husband. Then she arose with her daughters-in-law, that she might return from the country of Moab, for she had heard in the country of Moab how the Lord had visited his people, and giving them bread. Wherefore she went forth out of the place where she was, and her 2 daughters-in-law with her, and they went on the way to return to the land of Judah. Naomi said unto her 2 daughters-in-law, Go, return, each to her mother's house, and the Lord deal kindly with you, as she had dealt with the dead and with me. The Lord grant you that you may find rest, each of you in the house of her husband. Then she kissed them, and they lifted up their voice and wept. And they said unto her, Surely we will return with thee unto thy people. And Naomi said, Turn again, my daughters. Why will you go with me? Are there not yet any more sons in my womb, that you may be your husbands? Turn again, my daughters, go your way, for I am too old to have husbands. If I should say I have hope, if I should have a husband also tonight, and should also bear sons, would you tarry for them till they were grown? Would you stay for them for having husbands? Nay, my daughters, for it grieveth me much for your sakes that the hand of the Lord is gone out against me. They lifted up their voices and wept again. And Orpah kissed her mother-in-law, but Ruth clave unto her. She said, Behold, thy sister-in-law is gone back unto her people and unto her God. Return thou after thy sister-in-law. And Ruth said, Entreat me not to leave thee, or to return from following after thee. For whither thou goest, I will go, and where thou lodgest, I will lodge. Thy people shall be my people, and thy God my God. Where thou diest will I die, and there will I be buried. The Lord do so to me, and more also, if aught but death part thee and me. When she saw that she was steadfastly minded to go with her, then she left speaking unto her. So they 2 went until they came to Bethlehem. And it came to pass, when they were come to Bethlehem, that all the city was moved about them. And they said, Is this Naomi? And she said unto them, Call me not Naomi, call me Mara, for the Almighty had dealt very bitterly with me. I went out full, and the Lord brought me home again empty. Why then call me Naomi, seeing the Lord had testified against me, and Almighty had afflicted me? So Naomi returned, and Ruth the Moabitess, her daughter-in-law, with her, which returned out of the country of Moab, and they came to Bethlehem in the beginning of the barley harvest. We see here in this passage of Scripture of a family that lived in Bethlehem, Judah. A man named Elimelech and his wife Naomi and their 2 sons. We see that times have gotten tough for them. Judah, a famine, Food was running scarce. Didn't have a whole lot to eat. We also see that they get scared. They get scared because of this famine. We could say they had a lack of faith. They leave not to stay in Moab, but that word sojourn just means to kind of visit. It's not to stay. They went to just there to Moab to ride out this famine. That's what their plan was. You see, Elimelech and Naomi and their family. They had no business in the country of Moab. It was an ungodly place. They served different gods than what they did in Judah. They had no business being there. And then we see, as we continue reading, that when they got there, things really got to get bad. Naomi lost her husband and lost her 2 sons. Here's a woman out of her homeland, away from what family she may have had back there and her friends. And now she is in a country that knows not God, serves other gods. This was her daughter-in-law. And now they end up staying there for 10 years. She stuck there for over 10 years. Instead of just trusting the Lord through these bad times, they trusted in themselves instead of the Lord. We see that we've all heard that sin will take you further than you ever thought you'd go. Sin has a way about it. Sin has an attraction to the lost and to the saved. See, we're saved, but we still have a fleshly nature. Sin looks mighty inviting. Sin looks mighty fancy to us. Looks mighty pleasing to us. The longer we stay in sin, the worse it's going to be for us. The worse it's going to be for our families and the ones who go with us. They had no desire at the beginning to stay. Just there to ride the famine. Look what's happened. They trusted in themselves instead of the Lord. Are we not the same way? Either here today, are we not the same way? Trouble comes our way. Instead of trusting the Lord, try to figure the problem out ourselves. See, a child of God cannot be in God's will and be in Moab at the same time. You see, Elimelech and his family had no business being in Moab. The child of God has no business living in sin. You see, I believe that Moab can be a picture of our own will. Not following God's will, but following ours. What we think, this is the way I think this should go. Instead of trusting God, knowing that everything is set in course, is in plan for a reason and for a purpose, whether good or bad. But you see, the child of God seems to think that everything is in God's will when I've got plenty of money in the bank, when I've got food on the table. That's God's will. But when things come that's not pleasing to us, that rubs against our grain, all of a sudden, the Lord's gone out of the picture. He's nowhere to be found. I've got to figure this out. And that's when we run to Moab. I want us to think this morning on God's will in Moab. You see, there's a lot of things that don't mix in this life. You got oil and water. Doesn't matter how long you shake oil and water together, it just ain't going to mix. It ain't going to mesh. Like fire and gasoline. They don't mix. Neither is our will and God's will. Your will has to line up with God's will, or it will not mix. You understand what I'm saying? You understand what the Lord's showing us this morning? We should have faith in the Lord during unforeseen circumstances of our life. Things will not always be peaches and cream for us. We won't always be on top of that mountain, like Brother Brian said in Sunday school. Whether it's our own doing, or the Lord just allows it to happen. God allows things to come our way for a reason. The Lord caused this famine to come unto Judah for a reason. Was not the same God that allowed Judah to have plenty of food for so many years? Was that same God still not in control of when he allowed it not to be there? God is in control of all the seasons. He's in control of the sun, the moon, the rain, everything. All he has to do is say, don't rain for a little bit. And that affects a whole lot around this country. If we don't get rain around here, what happens? Well, you can see the crops. They just start to wither up, die. They start to wilt. But yet God is still in control. We should have faith in these unforeseen circumstances. It seems that during the times in the valley, that's when we draw closer to the Lord. When we're up on top of the mountain, everything's going good. We slowly drift off. Remember, He's in control. Who's supplying each and every one of our needs, everything that we stand in need of. We tend to forget it. We tend to forget to go home at night and fall down on our knees and say, thank you, Lord, for letting everything be so perfect in my life. Thank you for the food that I had on the table tonight. Thank you for the abundance of food that I have in the cabinets tonight. But we often forget. We eat our big, nice meal. Go in our houses. Temperature's just right. Start to relax and go right to bed all the time, forgetting about God. But as soon as the Lord pulls that away from us, you might run, you might try to fix things yourself. But when you finally realize who's in control, what's the first thing you do? You run somewhere, you hop down on your knees. Lord, I need you. I need your help. I can't make it without you. I'm incapable of making it through life without you. Our faith seems to waver, don't it? This famine comes upon Judah. Elimelech, Naomi. They forgot who was in control. Makes you wonder, during all the good times, that they forgot who was in control. Who got them through all those good times. Look over in the book of Matthew in the New Testament. First book in the New Testament, Matthew chapter 8. We can't live in God's will. We can't follow God's will if we're living in Moab. If we're chasing our own will. Matthew chapter 8. Verse 23 down to verse 26. And when he was entered into the ship, meaning Jesus, his disciples followed him. And behold, there arose a great tempest in the sea, and so much that the ship was covered with the waves. But he was asleep. And his disciples came to him and awoke him, saying, Lord, save us, we perish. And he saith unto them, Why are ye fearful, ye of little faith? Then he arose and rebuked the winds and the sea, and there was a great calm. The men marveled, saying, What manner of man is this, that even the winds and the sea obey him? Faith. Trust the Lord. In unforeseen circumstances. disciples here with Jesus Christ himself. And yet they doubted. They doubted that this was God's will for this storm to come up. We can sit back in our nice padded pews right now, and we can cast judgment on the disciples. Man, how ignorant were they? They had Jesus Christ in the boat, and they were afraid of a storm. But we see the Lord rebukes them and says, "Oh, ye little faith! Oh, ye little faith!" Now we see in the Bible where the Lord tells them that you only had the faith of a mustard seed. You only had the faith of a grain of a mustard seed. And oftentimes, I did this myself, that we look at the picture of this parable being the size of the faith of the mustard seed. A lot of times we leave out the part of the grain. We say you only had the faith of a mustard seed. But he says you had the faith of the grain of a mustard seed. Well, that would almost be like the Bible is contradicting itself if he says that if you only had a little faith. But then over here he says, "Oh, you've little faith," he rebuke them for that. I believe what the Bible is telling us in these parables is that faith has to be alive. It has to be living. You see that little mustard seed, it's just tiny. But you plant it in the ground. And what begins to happen? It begins to grow. And sprouts out of the dirt. And then it gets so large that it said that little bitty tiny mustard seed that will grow into a tree so tall that the birds will light into it. Jesus Christ was saying that you need to have a faith that's alive, that's working. Look with me in Matthew chapter 17. Matthew 17. Matthew 17, verse 20. Jesus said unto them, "Because of your unbelief, for I verily say unto you, if you had the faith of a grain of a mustard seed, you shall say unto this mountain, remove hence to yonder place, and shall remove, and nothing shall be impossible unto you." Faith is a grain of mustard seed. It has to be alive. Faith has to be working. It has to be in action. We're told to have faith. We need to have a living faith. Is your faith alive? Is your faith alive? Look in James chapter 2. I look at Hebrews, and you've got the book of James. Toward the back. Hebrews, or James chapter 2. James chapter 2 and verse 17. Even so faith, if it hath not works, is dead, being alone. If your faith is not in action, then it's dead. I often wonder, when's the last time you've actually applied your faith to something? Could it be perhaps the last time that you've actually had faith in the Lord was when you trusted on the Jesus Christ, your personal faith? Think about that. You have the faith to trust Jesus Christ, your personal Savior. And what did He do? He saved you. He saved you. When's the last time that your faith has been alive? It's working. It's in action. See, Elimelech and Naomi, their faith wasn't alive. It wasn't in action. They got scared because of the unforeseen circumstance that just came up in their way. They quit trusting God. They quit looking and thinking, this has to be God's will. This is where God put us in Judah. No, they did complete opposite. Let's run to Moab. Let's go to Moab and we'll try to ride it out until they've got everything that we need physically. They did a complete 180. It's like Jonah. It's like Jonah running from God's will. We need a living faith, faith that is alive. You see, when our faith is in action, that's when we can have peace. You're in any kind of circumstance, you can have peace. You can still be having your trial. You can still be in your troubles. But you can have peace. You look at Peter when he walked on the water. The Lord did not calm the storm for Peter to get out on the water. The storm was still raging. If Peter stayed in the boat when God said, come, Peter would have been in Moab. He would have been following his own will. I want to step out. But man, there's so much safety here in this moment. What faith by man? What safety, what peace does man have to offer? Peter jumps out and walks on water. Not Jesus Christ, but it was Peter. Yes, we can believe that Jesus Christ has the power and has the ability to walk on water. But this is Peter. Someone just like us. Following God's will during this unforeseen circumstance. You see, the trouble was still going on. The storm was still raging. The storm was still going just like it was. But God gave Peter peace to walk on the water. And then what started to happen? Peter took his eyes and started looking toward Moab. What am I doing? Took his eyes off the Lord. Peter started walking toward Moab, or started sinking to Moab. But yet the Lord, loving, came to Peter. And I loved how Brother Tyler Rowell pointed this out, that Jesus Christ rebuked Peter all while saving from sinking. And Jesus Christ walks in that boat while the storm's still raging. He didn't calm the storm down for Peter that he would have peace. It wasn't until they both got in the boat that Jesus said, peace be still. Do you see the peace that comes by being in God's will? By obeying God. By trusting God that He knows what's going on. He brought this on because I need this for some reason. You may not know it. You may never know it. That doesn't matter. You don't have to know what's going on in your life. You don't have to know the reason what's going on in your life. You don't have to know why a storm is going through, why God's putting you through it. All you need to know is God is in control. And you follow God's will during that trial, during that circumstance. The peace that comes by trusting the Lord. Look with me in Isaiah. Look at Isaiah back in the Old Testament. There's Psalms and Proverbs. Ecclesiastes, on the Solomon. Isaiah chapter 26. Isaiah chapter 26 and verse 3. Thou wilt keep him in perfect peace whose mind is stayed on thee. Who are they talking about? That thou and thee is the Lord. The Lord will keep him in perfect peace whose mind is stayed on the Lord. Because he trusteth in thee. Trust in the Lord. He trusted. ETH means he just keeps on putting his trust in the Lord. Trust ye in the Lord forever, for in the Lord Jehovah is everlasting strength. Trials and troubles, hard circumstances can make us weak, can't it? But there is a perfect peace that comes with trusting Jesus. It comes with trusting the Lord, knowing that He's in control. He's in full control. In all aspects of our life, listen, in every aspect of our life, God is enough. The Lord is all we need. Yes, a famine may be going on. You know what? God is enough. Deuteronomy chapter 31. Deuteronomy chapter 31, verse 6. Be strong and of good courage. Fear not, nor be afraid of them, for the Lord thy God, he is that doth go with thee. He will not fail thee, nor forsake thee. Look at that. He it is that doth go with thee. Who was with Peter when he walked on the water? Jesus Christ. No matter what the circumstance is, the Lord is always with you. You look at Jonah. God's will for Jonah was go to Nineveh. What did Jonah do? He ran the other way. He wanted to go to Joppa. Run away from God's will. Well, we see another picture of Moab going after his own will. Sin against God. But during that whole time, Peter goes down into the ship. God's with him. Storm starts to come up that the ship is nearly broken. The seamen and the crew are throwing stuff overboard, trying to lighten the ship. They're trying to figure out what's going on. They know something's wrong. Somebody had sinned against God during the storm. God is still with Jonah. Jonah ran from the will of God, but he couldn't run from God himself. What did they do? They throw him overboard. A whale comes up and swallows him. Goes clear down to the depths of the ocean. God is still with him. You see, we can run and we can run and we can run from God's will. And it puts a strain on our relationship with the Lord. But God has never left us. We might not see him, but he's right there with always be. He's strong, good courage, fear the Lord. Trust him. During the storm, during the trials, don't run to Moab. Don't run to Moab. Moab and God's will do not mix. Will not mix no matter how you try to mix it. You can take that water and oil in a clear jar and you can shake and you can shake and you can shake. You set it down, what's it do? Separates. It will not mix. God's will and Moab will not mix. Your will and God's will not mix no matter how hard you try. Let's trust in God, see you through. In Hebrews, back in the New Testament, Hebrews chapter 13. Hebrews chapter 13. Hebrews chapter 13, verse 5. I believe we can fit this in here. It says, let your conversation be without covetousness. Be content with such things as you have, for he has said, I will never leave you nor forsake you. Naomi, Elimelech, have grown uncontent with what they have. They've grown uncontent. I don't know how long that the famine had been taking place in Judah. But you see, whether it was 3 days, whether it was 3 years, God took them all the way through it. Yeah, they weren't eating steak and potatoes. They may have just been down to bread and water. But God sustained them up until the day they left. Everything they forgot. Instead of thinking, Lord, I'm still alive because of you. I'm not eating like I was. I've lost some weight. I've had to cinch my belt and make some new notches in my belt. I don't see how we're going to make it, but I seen how I made it yesterday. You provided. I seen how I've made it to this very hour I'm talking to you. You provided. You've given me everything that I've stood in need of. How can I question you? How can I judge you? You said you would never leave me. You said that you would never fail me. And you know what? As I'm looking back, you're doing exactly what you said. I'm still here. I'm still eating. I'm still alive. I'm still taking breaths. There's no need for me to run to Moab. There's no need for me even to look and think, what can I do to make my situation better? Times get tough. You may want to go and work in a place that a Christian shouldn't work. I need this extra money to pay my bills. Well, that's running to Moab. That's running to your own will. Chasing your will. I know better than God. That's what you're saying. We do it all the time. God reveals himself into the scriptures to us. I know it says that, but I think I can do it this way. It doesn't matter how you think, what you think. It's what God thinks. It's what God says. Any other way is Moab. Any other way is sin. We are guilty of sin every day that we go against God's will. How many in here are in Moab right now? How many members of Faith Baptist Church are in Moab right now? Where are you set? Well, how can I be in Moab if I'm in church? Oh, it's easy. It's easy to be in Moab when you're in church. You might be here physically, but your heart ain't here spiritually. You're clear in Moab. You're taking wives of people that you shouldn't be marrying in. You're sitting down at the table of sin. You're laughing. You're cutting up with sin. How many of us here today are living in Moab and we got our name on the church roll? It don't mix. Moab, God's will, does not mix. Never will mix. We need to leave Moab. Trust that God's will is the right way. In Proverbs chapter 15. Proverbs chapter 15, verse 16. Proverbs chapter 15, verse 16 says, better is little with the fear of the Lord than great treasures and trouble therewith. It's better to have little and have reverence toward the Lord, have honor, have respect. Be in God's will than to have more than you'll ever need in trouble. I don't believe there's anything wrong with having money. But I do believe with prosperity there's a greater chance of God. There's a better chance of going to Moab. If there's anything wrong with man trying to do good for his family and making as much as he can do, I believe it's good for a man to have a drive to want to do good. But you can't forget to give it to him. You can't forget that it's his right to take it away from him. But we should have fear toward God, honor toward God, respect toward God. There's no room for Moab in our lives. You're to be patient. God. Trust Him that in His time, God's time, things get better. He'll either continue to give you exactly what you need and no more, no less, be His will that we may leave this world tonight. We may leave this world today. As much as I'd hate to leave my family, better off I do. Be patient, knowing that God is in control. If you're in God's will, you see, when you put your faith and trust in the Lord, and you realize that God's in control, there's that peace. I know that everything's going to be okay, one way or the other. Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. The king says, you're either going to bow down to my statue or I'm going to throw you in this fire. The king, we're not going to be careful anymore. We're not even going to think about it. You can try to do what you want to, but you're not going to do anything that the Lord doesn't allow you to do. That's being God's will. That's trusting God. That's being patient. That's being content. Are we that today as individuals? Are we that today as a church? It's exactly what Naomi was in her husband. They weren't patient. They weren't content with what the Lord brought to them. This is exactly what we are most times. God's people are probably the most impatient people. This earth. We're impatient. We're not content. It's not the way it should be. Back in our text in Ruth, Ruth chapter 1, we'll begin in verse 19 down through 22 again. It says, so they too went until they came to Bethlehem. It came to pass when they were come to Bethlehem that all the city was moved about them, and they said, is this Naomi? She said unto them, call me not Naomi, call me Mara. The Almighty hath dealt very bitterly with me. I went out full. The Lord hath brought me home again. And man, she's changed her tune, ain't she? Why'd they leave? Why'd they leave Judah to go to Moab? They said they didn't have anything to eat. They didn't have anything. But now, she says, I went out full from Judah, and the Lord had brought me home again. Couldn't see how good they had. They couldn't understand that God was providing everything they stood in need of. Yet, though things had changed, though their circumstances in life had changed, they still had so much because they were God's people. Children of God never have problems. I believe that. I believe children of God don't have problems. I believe they have trials. I believe children of God have problems because with the Lord on your side, it's never a problem. You're in God's will and problems arise. You don't have a problem. You have an obstacle. You have a trial that comes your way. And the Lord is bigger than any problem you'll ever face. David and Goliath. David standing maybe not even 5 foot tall at the time. Goliath almost 10 foot tall. You had all these Israelites out there. Saul was the biggest man of the Jews at the time, 6 foot tall. They looked at Goliath and see a problem. David got there, heard Goliath speaking, cursing to God. They looked at him and said, this man he's just a bump in the road. You see, you're in God's will and things come your way. It's not a problem. It's a trial. It's an obstacle. But God will get you through it. God will get you around it. I believe Moab can be a picture of us abiding in our own will. How often do you run? He's still there. See, they went to Moab because they thought it was better, but spiritually it was complete opposite. You may leave God's will. Perfectly fine. As soon as you step out and see, you'll go down slowly, slowly. Until you look back and think, where in the world have I gone? What have I done? The prodigal son leaves his father's will. It's all his inheritance that was to come his way. Lived the life of luxury for a short period of time. Next thing he knows, living with the hogs. And he comes to a sense, what have I done? Even my father's servants live every night. What have I done? How many times have you done that? That you left God's will. You find yourself in the mire and the muck, living with a hog. I went to Moab because it was the will. We need to look at the root of our problems. You say, well, Derik just said that children of God don't have problems. No, they don't when they're in God's will. They just have opposite. But as soon as they run to Moab, then the problems come. Problems come in our life because of our own sinfulness, because of our own disobedience to God. That becomes a problem. We disobey God because of our lack of faith. We don't believe that God is in control. We don't believe God can take care of this matter for us. We run straight from home. The outcome from not having faith and trust in the Lord will never be a good one. I can tell you that by my own experience. Any time that I went away from God's will, I've always found myself in trouble. Oh yeah. As soon as you step out, it's pleasurable. Sin has pleasure too. It feels good. Don't bring peace. Sooner or later, you'll find yourself destroyed. And you'll find that your family, your loved ones, those who you hold close to your life, is even affected by your choice. Leave God's will and run to Moab. Chase your own will, your own dreams. Don't trust yourself. Look in Psalms. Look at Psalms 118. Psalms 118. Psalm 118, verse 8 says, it's better to trust in the Lord than to put confidence in man. It is better to trust in the Lord than to put confidence in princes. Look in verse 16, the right hand of the Lord is exalted in the right hand of the verse 14, I'm sorry. The Lord is my strength and song, and become my salvation. Can't trust. Well, I know I can't trust such and such. I know I can't trust so and so. That includes you as well in that thing. Y'all can't put your trust in me. I can't put my trust in my own self. How would you want to put your trust in me? But I hold myself in high regard compared to y'all. That's where we are. I can fix this. I can't run to him. I can't run to her. They ain't got the answer. I can fix this myself. We can't put our confidence in man. We can't put our confidence in ourselves. The only confidence that we can have is Jesus Christ, the Lord. To trust in the Lord instead of running to Moab. You're hearing laws. What's your confidence in? What's your trust in? you're hearing lost right now, and your only trust is that you're a good enough person to make it to heaven. That when the Lord comes back, when you take your last breath out of this life, that somehow or some way that you're going to make it in heaven. That's your own. That's your own thing. Your own will and your own thinking will send you straight to heaven. You put your faith and trust in Christ. You have to see that you're guilty. You're sinning. There's nothing that you can do to buy your way to heaven. There ain't enough good works to get you in heaven. Hell is just as real as heaven. You leave this life in one or two places. You don't know Jesus Christ, person and Savior, you're not going to make it to heaven. You take your last breath. There's no do-over. There's no second chances. It's gospel. It's the only way. Put your faith in Christ. Turn from your sins. Believe on Him.